That's Carrie.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am with Zipporah Newton-Calvert from Reading is Resistance and her husband, Fernell Newton. And they are a multi-racial family, and we're here to talk about how to talk about race. So I, with no delay, will turn it over to the happy couple.
Good morning.
The happy couple. Yes, good morning.
We're really glad to see all of you here. Hello, friends, family, new friends. We're going to start this session with a moment of silence for Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Tony McDade. I also would like to lift up the voices or the memory of Jason Washington, who was killed by campus police at Portland State University, which is where I teach. And Tamir Rice, because I've been talking to my son a lot about him lately. So we'll just take a moment together. Okay.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us. My wife has a little agenda, and me as being a musician, I like to just improvise whenever I can, but we're going to let my wife start this one off.
Yeah, I think
I'll talk a little bit about what Reading is Resistance.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So Reading is Resistance is a project that we co-founded in 2016 for obvious reasons. And the goal is to create opportunities for Portland parents and teachers to start or expand inclusive, diverse libraries in their homes or anywhere where we have books, schools, please, yes.
But it also started, remember, it actually started because we were really curious and wanting a little free library. And we put a fund together to fund 2 little free libraries in our neighborhood, one in front of our house and one in front of my mother's house, about 3 blocks away. And we named them after Zipporah's dad. And we always try to make sure we have kids' books in there. And like I said, from Zipporah said, from diverse artists or stories of various different kids and people from around the world that kids will look forward to coming and getting. And now our little free library stays empty all the time, even though we put books in there constantly.
Yeah, we one of our missions is not only to get the books out there, but that the books seed conversations about race and identity and bias. And we're committed in our work to anti-racist practice in our family, in ourselves, and in community. So that's what our project is about. I want to shout out my Portland State University students. Without them, this project would not be happening. They have been amazing, and their voices are more important than mine in this project because they bring their identities and their experiences to create content and to share.
Yeah, I mean, you want to
talk about who we are?
Yeah.
So, why don't you introduce you first?
My name is Fernell Newton. I've been in Portland, Oregon for the last 20 years. I came here after I got my bachelor's at Oberlin College / Conservatory of Music. And I've been everything from working for Portland Parks and Recreation and the Columbia Villa for 10 years to being a professor at Portland State, touring the world with various different music artists like Jill Scott and Bootsy Collins and many other great musicians, to currently working in tech for a great web development company and doing music licensing at Marmoset Music, which is right here in Portland, Oregon. Shout out to Ryan Wines. I see you on there, Ryan. And and that's just my background for education.
Yeah.
You're next.
I'm Zipporah. I actually was born in Portland. My ancestors are white settler colonists and also Anishinaabe people from Red River, Manitoba. I've been a teacher. My come from a long line of teachers. My mom is an art teacher, and many of my family members are teachers. I teach at Portland State University a course called Social Justice in K-12 Education that has really, that partners with schools in general. We partner with Kairos PDX and Open School East, among other organizations, in non-pandemic times. And right now we're doing all of our work virtually for Reading is Resistance, connecting in community, trying to share resources with parents. Yeah, that's me. We met through music.
Yeah. We both, I was performing with a Cuban band in town, Cubaneo, and Zipporah was sitting in with them. She didn't know any of the songs.
No.
They were just like, hey, you speak Spanish, you sing, come and hang out with us. And we met and just got to know each other over the time. Our background for music and, you know, education and many viewpoints we shared. And yeah, and now we're happily married. We have altogether 5 beautiful kids. I have 3 kids from a previous marriage, and they're all older. 19,
Hi, girls, if you're on. Jade.
19, Jade, Jules, 16. Ooh, no, she's going to be 16 this month. Wow.
I don't think you should.
Jasmine.
You might get them wrong and
Jasmine's 13, Vera's 10, and Quincy is 9. So I have the full spectrum of the rainbow. And we love them dearly, and they're wonderful, creative, and beautiful children. So
I also would like to say that although we parent all of these, I almost said creatures, all of these humans, that we're not claiming to be experts at all, but we are really committed to this work together and wanted to share some of that. Also, the intersection of how we use books in our parenting, how we start conversations, how we use music. And I've had a lot of people reaching out, like, what do we do? And how do we have these conversations with our kids? So we wanted to share whatever we can at this time and always. So we're glad that we're here. What should we talk about next?
I think maybe jump in and talk about how you do interact with your kids. What are some of the language? What's the language you use? And then maybe talk a little bit about coming up against people who are not aware.
Yeah, for one thing, we definitely don't hold pretty much anything back from our kids. Like, we believe that, I feel like that's where, I just feel like you should be talking to your kids about everything from race to gender, people's religion, and just respecting people across the board as people, but also try to teach them about different cultures and races and everything, so that it can have a full understanding of like where people are from and their upbringings are different than ours, and what we believe in and why we believe in these various different traditions, and kind of like our own traditions we built together as a mixed race family, you know, because I have my own experiences growing up in the projects of Miami, Florida, and being raised and in a Black neighborhood, and to Zipporah's values of being, you know, raised in Oregon and predominantly white, hippie-ish type family. And so we try to balance all of these things, you know, with them, but we definitely have a lot of good and sometimes sad conversations about all the things that's going on in the world. So
yeah, I mean, I think just always talking, like we've started when they were really young, like when they were baby. I mean, we just have always talked about racial identity in that way. Like we're kind of lucky that that's just built into our family. And one of our children is calling us right now.
Sorry about that. Oh, Lord.
Feedback on our
if we could maybe talk about like a real life example, you know, like you're on the playground and there's name calling, and maybe you're the object of that name calling, or a friend of yours is the object of that name calling? Like, what do we do? How do we handle it?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely taught our kids to speak up, to always say something. I have this memory of Vera's first real standing up for classmates in second grade, when some stuff was happening in her class, and a student did say a racial slur in the class, and Vera and her friend looked at each other, her Black friend. They asked to leave the classroom. They walked down the hall, and her first impulse was to get ice for their ears from the school secretary, which is like really sweet and really sad, because that was like the only thing she could think of to calm the pain that they were feeling. And she told me that she whispered to her friend as they were walking down the hall, remember that I'm Black too. So I think from a young age, just like knowing who you are is really important, for all of us, no matter what your racial identity, like knowing who you are, knowing how you can connect to others, and always sticking up for folks when you know that that's the right thing.
Yeah. And I feel like creating a strong sense of themselves, knowing where they're from, so they have a good foundation to stand on, is one of the most important things, is so they always know where they're at and where they stand. And they can also let other people know where they're at. Because even for me, growing up as a white passing Black man in down South Florida, sometimes you have to, justify and let people know who you are. No matter, I had to let Black people know who I am, and I had to let white people know who I am and what was my racial makeup and such. But I feel like just creating a strong sense of who they are, and knowing that they should be taking pride in being Black, and taking pride in being white, and taking pride in being Native, and with Choctaw Native, and also Anishinaabe, and just making sure that, and we teach them, we teach them stories, we teach them about these great people, and what these people also had to endure in their everyday lives and such, so that it could be a place of learning for them to stand on that foundation. Because if you don't have that, then I feel like you're just frailing and jumping onto every various different things and not having that foundation. I mean, I feel like a lot, especially for me, I remember being in college, and that's when you kind of get culture shock. You're like, wait, this is what happened to my people. Like, you start, because you don't get taught these things in high school. So you go to college and you start learning about, the Native side, and the mistreaties and the killings and the deaths. And then you start learning about the Blacks and the slavery, gentrification, Jim Crow, redlining, race riots, Tulsa, Black Wall Street, and you started to get inflamed, but then you start learning and being more grounded, so then you could build from there. In my case, I had a thing where my uncle at a young age sent me to an African heritage school in Boston, Massachusetts, that really taught me about being Black in America, and also teaching us about Swahili and Black Panthers and Harlem Renaissance and such. So I had a great foundation. So we're in a heightened awareness period right now, and I think, I don't want to say that people are only just aware of their white privilege, but they're becoming more aware of what white privilege means. What would a family who's really just is white, what's some language they could use to talk to their kids about why this is an important moment in time?
I mean, I would just first say that any of us who want to commit to this work, which has to be long-term, need to do that for ourselves first before we talk to our kids, or simultaneously while we're talking to our kids. So books like So You Want to Talk About Race can give us a lot of language that might be useful. This Book is Anti-Racist is a YA book that I know everything's like backstocked, but you can still get e-versions, right? An audio of this kind of book. This Book is Anti-Racist is awesome because it has exercises throughout that you could totally do as a family. And it really starts with understanding your multiple identities so that you can understand other people's multiple identities and honor those. And I think you have to start there. And we have to simultaneously be activated for the Black Lives Matter movement because what's going on has to stop. But the real work is it starts with it, like internal, you have to get your internal work settled before you can move out and have conversations and fight for what, the structural changes that need to happen. So I would just start there and just be honest and know it's going to be hard. There's no way that this is going to be comfortable. There's no way that it's going to not be sad. You're going to feel guilt. It's messy and you're going to mess up. I mean, I tell my students, it's when I start every term, I'm like, I will mess up. I'm committed to anti-racist practice. I will likely mess up. I will own that and I will apologize. I will learn better. And I commit to that too. So I think just even being able to say that is a tool for parents and for kids so that we can just say like, we're imperfect and we don't know, but I'm committed and I'm learning now. I don't think we have to know more than that right away. We need to know more of it long-term, but that's a good place to start. I also, we were talking about this today, we really decenter white texts in our house. We've always done that. We decenter white media. Kids are going to get information about whiteness from everywhere. It's just everywhere. So having more presence of Black and brown authors, movies, music helps counterbalance that. And I would encourage, I'll find there's a way to analyze like your own library of books that has been going around to see like whose voices are present. And I think that would be an interesting thing to do with your family. That would be an activity you could do just to see like, where are we at? Whose voices are we hearing? And start a conversation that way too.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we when you're teaching them and giving them that foundation, and when you're exposed to the literature, the experiences, then they're going to take it and run with it. Like I remember being on tour and as Deborah texted me and said, I was trying to watch, we put on a movie and started watching Stuart Little with the family, but the kids got upset because there was no people of color in the movie. So we had to find another movie that best represented who they are and their view. So, and that's important. And it's not just allowing the media to dictate what is shown to you or what you digest. It's like you could make a clear, conscious effort to make sure you get the right media that reflects who you are and your beliefs in.
Mm-hmm. And it's also okay if it goes, like we had to talk about that Stuart Little thing. We had to talk about the 90s. We had to talk about
90s, representation and the 90s,
and that white isn't bad. Obviously, like white characters are okay, but yes, we want to have representation. I was just thinking about the example. We've been talking a lot in the last couple of years about indigeneity and decolonization, and Quincy's really glommed onto that. That's our 9-year-old, and he was really mad one day because he said one of our dogs, Janeway, was colonizing the bed of our dog, Cindy. And I was like, okay, let's roll it back a little bit. He also noticed that game we were playing, Settlers of Catan, is that what it's called? He was just like, we had it out. Someone had given it to us, loaned it to us. And he was just like, we can't play this.
And I was like, why? He was like, because these people are coming to their island and taking their resources and using it for their own good.
And I was like, there aren't even people. He was like, Mom, who makes the sugar? And I was like, whoa, shoot. Yeah. So like we're constantly learning from our kids too. but giving them the tools so that, when they do, a lot of this stuff is not covered in school. No. So parents have a big responsibility. I mean, schools have a responsibility too. We've got to change the curriculum. It's not okay how we're teaching. If we are able, we need to also change the stories and the language that we're using at home so they don't get to college and are like surprised that, I have students who come to me who are 20, 30 years old who are like, I have never talked about this. I mean, white students, like never have talked about it. And they're just, I mean, it's okay. Like we can learn whenever. Yeah. So no shame because we're steeped in this. This is how our culture works. But like,
and this is how the system has been set up and developed for so many years. And they're like, I see Zipporah students coming from like Hillsborough and Forest Grove and these places. And they're like, we thought all schools had the same resources. We thought every school in Portland had the same resources, that these schools looked like ours in Forest Grove or Hillsborough. And then they mentor, Zipporah will put them in Boise Elliott or King Elementary School or Kairos, and they're shocked. They're literally like taken back. They're like, these kids don't have proper books, like, the facilities, the everything. They're shocked by it because they always thought it was the same everywhere and in the nation as what they thought, but they realized that it is not. And what can they do? What can their voice do to help and providing better services or funding and for these schools and these communities and such. So
yeah. We're coming up on about the half-hour mark, and I wanted to open it up for questions.
Wow.
If anyone has a question, there's an actual ask a question little box there. You could throw a question in there. I guess one of my questions would be, it sounds like being aware, right? Increasing people's awareness of what's missing in the education, what's missing in our own personal education. Like I went to a private girls' school. There's a whole bunch of stuff missing from my education. How do we start being aware? If parents are out with their kids, what are some things that they could talk about?
I first want to make sure to say awareness is important and a first step, and then, encourage everyone to move to action once they can. I have some I actually will also, there's a bunch of resources, of course, I want to share. That's my teacher self. But there's this organization called Racial Literacy Club, and it's from Canada. And they have some questions that you can use, I think, almost with anything, which include whose story is being told. So that could be anywhere. That could be on the sidewalk in downtown St. John's. That could be in a book. That could be in the classroom. Whose story is not being told, right? Whose voice is not in the room? Whose voice is missing? What institutional or systemic forces, and that you can use whatever language a kid would understand, like what bigger picture forces are present? When and where is, the story taking place if it's a historical situation? And then what do I need to learn more about? What are you curious about? I think leading from curiosity is a good way to learn and to not make it feel like there's pressure. You don't have to have all the answers either. It's totally fine to say, I say it to my kids all the time. I'm like, I have no idea. I need to research that. Like, let's look together. Let's just model that learning behavior.
Yeah. And I feel like with everything, you want to post those in the
I will.
Because this thing, make sure people have it.
Yes.
I'm sorry for now. We have a lot of resources in the chat. If they're looking at the top, later this evening at 7 p.m., there's a Kidlit rally that I highly recommend. It's divided into two sections, one for kids and one for parents. Zipporah and her students have created a summer reading bundle. There's a link for that. I put a link for some other anti-racist reading. A lot of those books are now back ordered, but you can definitely get the ebook or the audiobook. And then Zipporah is going to put all of, there they are, the prompts and the links. And then you have a homework for everyone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I do have homework. You want
to paste that in there?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me grab that up. I see that there's also some, great. Some other ideas from the group, which is wonderful. So I have a homework assignment for everyone. And this is just another way to get involved. And a student of mine last term.
Yes, he's a jazz trumpeter in Portland, Oregon, Noah Simpson, and a good friend of mine put together this playlist for Zipporah's class and a book.
Yeah, so Noah, because his jazz expertise, made a bunch of really awesome music playlists to go along with some books that we're showcasing. One of those is actually Vera. If you go to our site, our daughter Vera does reviews. Oh yeah, Jessica just posted it.
Good job, Jess.
Jessica's everything. So Vera just did a review on One Crazy Summer. And at the end of that post, after you hear what Vera thought about it from a 10-year-old's view, there's a playlist that goes along with One Crazy Summer. And you can listen to it with or without the book. And we would love for you to listen to that with your family and ask your kids what they're curious about and have some conversations.
And you also have a summer book club.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yes. I'm all about the books. Farnell's just like, why are there so many books everywhere? Okay. It's fine.
They're everywhere.
So we have a middle reader book club coming up I don't remember the date in June, but it's part of our book bundle. This has all my sticky notes, but this is Front Desk by Kelly Yang. So we're going to be reading this and talking about it with middle grade kiddos. So from 8 and up, depending on your reading level. We hope you'll get the book bundle for June, and we're going to be talking about Front Desk using anti-bias techniques. So our learning will not necessarily be like a critique of the literature. It's really going to be about talking about our identities, what we see in the book, how to learn how to talk about things like race together. So that's going to be coming up. That's a live Zoom book club. And we'll also have prompts and stuff you could do at home if you're reading the book. And then our YA book club, which is for grownups. This book just came out. Actually, Christine just delivered this to my house. I got an advanced copy and read it and wrote a review. It is beautiful and amazing. It also takes place in Portland and talks all about the race issues there, along with having a fantasy side to it. So we're going to be able to talk about this, which is really important in our YA book group for grownups who like YA, like me. I hope you guys join us, because it's another way just to build community and have conversations together.
Okay. Any closing remarks? Anyone? Thank you so much, everybody. I love all of the stuff in the chat, all the extra ideas from Mike. And then I think Cody put one in there too.
Oh, no, that's my brother.
Yeah, Cody and my daughter Jade is on.
Hi, Jade.
And yeah.
Yeah, we just also want to say part of it is just being in relationship with people. You know, as I know right now is weird, but we can still connect and just appreciate the community that we have, that we learn from each other, and encourage everyone to reach out and talk to the people around them. And that's a huge part of the work is.
Yeah, I want a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. I feel like in the time of COVID, people are maybe looking away from the person across the street. I encourage you to be kind, wildly greet them, say hello. Don't start isolating, because that is when we become worse, right? Our prejudices expand. So, greet your neighbors wildly. Zipporah is not just the person whose organized reading is resistance. She's my neighbor. And so know your neighbors, be kind. Everybody's coming from a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you always, that's one thing. And my kids used to get on me. They'd say, Dad, you talk to everyone walking down the street, wherever. And I was like, well, you want to build community and let people know that you're here, and that this space is also being monitored in a way that we're always looking out for our community. We're always looking out for the other houses, the other people. And it just shows people like that little person-to-person connection can literally change your mood. Having a smiled at you, and just having someone just say, hey, how are you doing today? It could it could brighten up the darkest day. So
that's very true.
Yeah.
And then one quick store PSA. Tomorrow we are doing our singer-songwriter night at 7 p.m. Nice. Here on Crowdcast. We have a lot of virtual events. Encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. And anything else?
I'll be back next Thursday, so come join me for whatever our next topic is, depending on what's happening in the world.
Yeah. We're doing our little coffee break every Thursday at 11, and we encourage you to join us.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
See you later.